A very good afternoon, students. So today we are going to discuss the very last chapter of our syllabus, and that deals with the Negotiable Instruments Act. In the first chapter, we'll talk about the introduction and historical background of the negotiable instruments, then the meaning and definition and the characteristics of negotiable instrument, and the different types of negotiable instruments, which are the promissory note, bill of exchange, check, and various other types. Basically, we'll discuss in detail the three types of negotiable instrument, that is promissory note, bill of exchange, and check, because these are the only three types which are prominently used in the deal or in the course of business. So starting with the introduction and historical background. With an increase in the commercial activities to the great extent, the need of money has increased manifold. The increased demand for money led to the introduction of the concept of negotiable instruments. So, with the increase in the volume and the complexities of business, a lot of money is required for every business transactions. Now, it is difficult to hold and preserve that much amount of money, and also for the safety and liquidity solvency concerns, a person cannot keep the appropriate amount of the money with himself. So basically, in order to deal away with this problem of holding money, the concept of negotiable instruments has originated. So Negotiable Instruments Act of 1881 came into force on March 1 of 1882 and is the result of lot of modifications and drafts to the original proposed Negotiable Instruments Bill in 1866. So the very first time the Negotiable Instruments Bill was introduced in the year 1866. So at that time, India was under the rule of the Britishers. So that is why the law could not come into effect because a lot of modifications were being proposed every time. So initially the law commission, the Indian Law Commission proposed the bill, but a lot of modifications were there and four drafts were required in order to reach to the final negotiable instruments bill, and the bill was passed in 1881 and it came into effect from March 1 of 1882. Now, what do we actually mean by negotiable instrument? Negotiable instrument is an instrument or a document which is negotiable or transferable. So by negotiable, we basically mean an instrument or a document which can be transferred. Negotiable means which can be transferred from one person to another person. Any written document that entitles a person to a sum of money and which can be transferred from one person to another is called as a negotiable instrument. The negotiable instrument is a kind of document which is in writing, which entitles the holder of that instrument a particular amount of the money on a particular date. So whosoever will have the possession of the document, that person is entitled to receive a sum of the money on a particular date that is being mentioned on that instrument. So negotiable instrument is nothing but it's just a written document which certifies that a particular person which is written on that instrument will get a particular amount of the money on a particular date. Transfer of document means transfer of right to receive the money. So when the document is transferred from the one person to another person, like if A has given that instrument to B, now B will have the possession of that instrument. Now B will have the right to receive the amount of the money mentioned on that instrument on a particular date. The instrument can be transferred by two modes. The first is by delivery and second by endorsement and delivery. By delivery means simply transferring or handing over the instrument from one person to another person. For example, a bearer check. So a bearer check is a check on which the name of the payee is not written. Whosoever has the possession of that check, he will take that check to the bank and can take the payment. Second is by endorsement and delivery. Endorsement and delivery means there are some of the instruments which cannot be simply transferred by handing over that instrument to another. For that matter, the name of that transferee has to be written on the back maybe of that instrument while transferring the instrument to the transferee along with the signature. So this is called as endorsement. That means you have transferred that instrument in the name of some other person. So you will write on the back of that instrument the name of the transferee along with the signatures, and then it is delivered. So this is called as endorsement and delivery. And the example of this is bill of exchange. So both check and bill of exchange we'll talk about later in detail. So basically, on account of increase in the size of the businesses and the complexity of the businesses, a lot of money is required because money is the blood of every kind of business. So in order to fulfill the requirements of the money, the negotiable instruments have been originated, and these instruments, they are a kind of document in writing which entitles the holder of that instrument a particular amount of the money on a particular date as it is mentioned on that document. Now we'll talk about the definition of the negotiable instrument under section 13 subsection 1 of the Act. A negotiable instrument means a promissory note, a bill of exchange, or a check payable either to order or to the bearer. So basically negotiable instruments, they are of three types. So all these three types are included in the definition. So a negotiable instrument is either a promissory note, a bill of exchange, or a check, or it may be any other kind of hybrid instrument as well, that is payable to order or to the bearer. To order means when it is payable to a specific person, like the amount will be given only to the B. And next is to the bearer. Bearer means whosoever is the holder of that instrument will get the money. Now, on the basis of the meaning and definition, we can derive the characteristics of negotiable instruments. The first is negotiable instruments entitles the holder a sum of the money. So negotiable instrument is a legal document which entitles the holder of the instrument to a sum of money. So sum of money is clearly stated on every negotiable instrument, and every holder of the instrument has a right to claim the amount that is stated on the instrument from the person who has given the instrument. So negotiable instrument is a document which represents the receipt of a particular amount of the money on a particular date. Second characteristic is the element of negotiability or transferability. So as I've told you in the beginning of the slides, that by negotiable we mean transferable. So negotiable instrument is that which can be transferable from the one person to another person. So negotiability is the right of freely transferring the ownership of that instrument from one person to another person. Third characteristic is mode of transfer of instrument. Now, basically, negotiable instrument can be either an order instrument or a bearer instrument. A bearer instrument can be transferred just by the delivery of the instrument. So bearer instrument means whosoever is the holder or the possession of the document, he will be entitled to the certain amount of the money. So for a transfer of the bearer instrument, it can be transferred by simple delivery. That is by simply handing over the possession of the instrument from one person to another person. Whereby an order instrument means an instrument in which the amount will be given only to a specific person. So where an order instrument has to be transferred, it has to be transferred by endorsement and then delivery. That means on the back of that instrument, the name of the transferee along with the signatures has to be done. That means it is endorsed or it is drawn in the favor of that person, and then it is delivered to the other person. Next feature is that a negotiable instrument is always in writing. Obviously, for to have a proof, a negotiable instrument will always be in writing. An oral promise to pay a sum of the money to another person cannot be legally challenged in the court of law. So that is why a negotiable instrument has to be in writing. Lastly, negotiable instrument is basically drawn to pay a certain sum of the money. So obviously, negotiable instrument will entitle the person to receive the amount that is mentioned in that instrument. So the amount of the money that is to be payable has to be certain and definite. Then other characteristic is the consideration should be money only. So negotiable instrument should be to pay the money only. So if the instrument is not to pay the money but to pay something else or to do something else, then it should not be called as a valid negotiable instrument. So negotiable instrument will entitle the person to receive certain amount of the money only. Next, negotiable instrument is unconditional. That means the payment of the instrument shall be on the fulfillment of certain conditions and or on the happening of the certain contingency. So that means the payment, if it is payment dependent upon the fulfillment of certain condition, then it will be considered as an invalid negotiable instrument. Next is good title. The transferee who takes the negotiable instrument in the good faith and for the consideration gets a good title to the same even though the title of the transferor is defective. That means any person who acquires a negotiable instrument for a value, that is for a consideration, in a good faith, and he gets a good title of that instrument. Next is right to sue in own name. In case of the dishonor of the negotiable instrument, that means if one person has given that instrument to another person and on the due date he failed to deliver that amount of the money mentioned in the negotiable instrument, so it gets dishonored. For example, you might have heard about the dishonoring of the checks, that you placed or presented the check in the bank and the check came back dishonored because there was no money in the account of the transferor. So in that case, the owner can sue the liable parties in his own name to recover the amount which is due on the instrument. Lastly, some presumptions. That means there are certain assumptions which are applicable to all the negotiable instrument, and these assumptions are presumptions are like consideration, because every contract is made for the consideration. Then date, date must be mentioned on the negotiable instrument. Then time of acceptance, time of transfer, stamping, and lastly the proof of protest. So these are some kind of the assumptions or some conditions which have to be fulfilled while forwarding the negotiable instrument from one person to another. Now the very important part of the chapter, that is the types of negotiable instruments. So basically there are three types of negotiable instruments which we will be discussing. That is the promissory note, bill of exchange, and lastly the check. And apart from these three, there are various other types of the negotiable instruments also which are used by the business in the ordinary course of business. But normally these three are used in order to conduct the maximum volume of the business. So we'll start with the first type of negotiable instrument, that is promissory note. So the provisions regarding promissory note are mentioned in section 4 of the Negotiable Instrument Act of 1881. According to the Act, a promissory note is an instrument in writing containing an unconditional undertaking signed by the maker to pay a certain sum of the money only to or to the order of certain person or to the bearer of the instrument. So in simple words, we can simplify this definition that promissory note is any document whereby a debtor, so debtor means a person who is supposed to make the payment. So the person who is supposed to make the payment, that is the person who is the debtor, he will make the promissory note. He is called as maker. Promises in writing to pay to his creditor. So creditor is that person to whom the payment is to be made or who is entitled to receive the payment. So that is why he will be called as payee. The amount so due to him is called as promissory note. So during the course of business, when the creditor sells the goods to the debtor, so debtor is supposed to make the payment to the creditor. So the debtor will draw a promissory note, and that will be a document in writing. It will be kind of unconditional undertaking by the debtor to pay certain sum of the money to the order of certain person or to the bearer of that instrument. So it will be written in the promissory note that to pay certain sum of the money to a particular person or to pay certain sum of the money to the bearer of that instrument, that whosoever will be holding the instrument at the maturity date, he or she will get the payment of the amount. So this is a format of promissory note, and the promissory note is made or it is drawn by the debtor, that is the person who is supposed to make the payment, and it is drawn in favor of the creditor, and the creditor is the person who is supposed to receive the payment. So in a promissory note, it will be a document in writing which will be drawn by the debtor, in which he specified to pay certain sum of the money to a particular person or to the bearer of that instrument on a particular date. And this promissory note will be signed by the maker, that is by the debtor. So the name of the person will be written to whom the payment will be made, or if it is to the bearer, so in that case it will be written to the bearer. So from the definition itself, we can draw out various essential features of promissory note. So first is that promissory note is a negotiable instrument. Obviously, promissory note is freely transferable. That means it can be transferable from one person to another person any number of times before its due date. So it must satisfy all the essential of a negotiable instrument. Second essential feature is that promissory note must be in writing. So as all the negotiable instruments have to be in writing, so it is one of the essential condition that promissory note has to be in writing, and the name of the maker, payee, or to the bearer of the instrument must be properly written and must be properly signed by the maker. Third, it is an undertaking, that is, it's a promise to pay. So valid promissory note must state that it is a promise to pay the money to the other person. So unless or whatever language it is being used, but it must make it clear that the maker is promising a certain amount of the money to be paid to the payee on a particular date. Next is, it is an unconditional undertaking. So we have already done in the essential features of a negotiable instrument that it must be unconditional. That means no condition must be attached to it that a payment will be made on the happening or not happening of certain event. So such kind of statements cannot be written. So payment has to be made. So no condition can be attached to the payment. If some condition is attached, then it not be considered as a valid promissory note or a valid negotiable instrument. Then next is, it must be signed by the maker. So maker is the person who is making that promissory note. And who makes the promissory note? The debtor, the one who has to make the payment. He will make a promissory note promising a certain amount of the money to be paid to a certain person or to the bearer of the instrument on a particular date. So it must be duly signed and authorized by the maker, because he is promising to pay, so that instrument has to be signed by the maker. Then, to pay a certain sum. So the amount of sum has to be written in the promissory note. So properly definitive amount must be written in proper numericals. That, for example, I promise to pay rupees 500. So it must be properly written, and such amount should not be based on certain event or contingency. The amount should be properly determined at the onset of the promissory note. Next is to pay money only. So this feature we already discussed in the negotiable instrument features, that the promissory note must promise to pay certain amount of the money only and not anything else. Then another feature is that it must be payable to the order or to the instrument, to the bearer. So order means when you are making the payment to a specific person. So payment will be made only to that person. In case of bearer instrument means whosoever holds the instrument at the time of the maturity, he or she will get the money. So that is called as bearer. So promissory note can be made payable to the order, that is payable to a particular person, or payable to the bearer of the instrument. Next, both parties must be certain. Both of the parties, that is the one who is paying the amount, that is the maker, and the one who is going to receive the amount, that is the payee. So both of the parties must be certain. The promissory note must clearly state that who is the maker along with the signatures and who is the payee. Next, promissory note payable on demand. Now, a promissory note payable on demand means the maker has to make the payment of the note as and when it is demanded by the payee. So in other words, for an instrument which doesn't have any maturity date, in that case, payee can demand the payment from the maker anytime. The maker has to make the immediate payment on the demand. Next, promissory note payable otherwise than on demand. In some situations, promissory note clearly states that what is its maturity date. So when the due date of the promissory note is clearly specified on the promissory note, then it has to be paid accordingly, that is on the due date. So if due date is not written, then promissory note is payable on demand. But if due date is written on that instrument, so the debtor or the maker has to make payment on the due date. Next, maturity of a promissory note. Usually, the maturity of the promissory note is the date at which it falls due. That means the maker has written that he will pay certain amount of the money 2 months later. So the bill will expire after the 2 months. But in case of demand, there is no maturity date. The payment has to be made whenever it is demanded by the payee. Last is days of grace. Now, every promissory note which is not payable on demand or which is not payable on site, 3 days of grace are given while calculating the maturity date. Now, for example, the maturity date or the amount of the maturity, the period of maturity was 2 months. So, in that case, for example, the bill was drawn on 1st May of 2020, and the promissory note entitles for the payment of amount 3 months later. So The maturity date will be calculated as 1st May plus 3 months plus 3 days of grace. That makes 4th of August of 2020. So while calculating the maturity date, 3 days of grace must be added to the time period that was allowed in the promissory note. This was about the first negotiable instrument, promissory note. The second type of negotiable instrument that is popularly used in the business is the bill of exchange. So Section 5 of the Negotiable Instrument Act of 1881 deals with bill of exchange. According to this section, a bill of exchange is an instrument in writing containing an unconditional order signed by the maker directing a certain person to pay a certain sum of the money only to or to the order of certain person or to the bearer of the instrument. So one of the basic difference between bill of exchange and negotiable instrument is that, promissory note is that promissory note is drawn by the debtor, whereas bill of exchange is drawn by the creditor. So basically, in simple words, when the creditor sells goods to the debtor on credit, then he, that is the creditor, since he draws the bill, so he will be called as drawer in this case, draws a bill of exchange on the debtor, that is the drawee. The bill is then given or presented to the debtor for getting accepted. So the bill, when it is accepted and signed by the drawee, is later on presented by the drawer before the drawee for payment. If the drawee pays on the due date, the bill is cancelled, else it is dishonored. So one of the basic difference between promissory note and bill of exchange is promissory note is drawn by the debtor, that is, debtor is the maker. He draws the promissory note saying that or promising that he will make the payment of certain sum of the money on a particular date to particular person or to the bearer of the instrument. Whereas bill of exchange is drawn by the creditor. So creditor is the person who has to take certain sum of the money from the debtor. So here creditor draws the bill, so he is called as a drawer, and he draws the bill on the debtor, so debtor will be called as drawee. So the creditor will draw a bill of exchange on the debtor. Then after drawing the bill, he has to have the acceptance of the bill from the debtor. So this is also another difference between promissory note and bill of exchange, because bill of exchange has to have accepted. So bill of exchange will be then given to the drawee, that is to the debtor. Then he will sign that bill, and that means he will accept that bill. He will accept that he will make a payment on a particular date of the certain amount of the money. So after drawing the bill, the creditor will send the bill to the debtor, and debtor will accept the bill and he will sign the bill. That means he has given an undertaking that he will make the payment of certain amount of the money after certain date. Then again, when the due date arrives, then the creditor will again present the bill to the debtor for having the payment. Now, if the payment is made by the debtor on the due date, the bill is said to have cancelled. But in case the debtor does not make the payment, the bill is said to have dishonored. So this is a form of bill of exchange that it is being drawn by the creditor, that is who is entitled to receive the payment, who has sold the goods on the credit to the debtor. So in this, the amount is written, and then 3 months after the date, Mr. R or his order, a sum of rupees 1,50,000 value received. So this bill will be accepted by the debtor, and he will sign that yes, he will make the payment. So this is a kind of bill of exchange. And then later on, on the due date, the drawer, that is a creditor, he will take the bill to the drawee, to the debtor for having the payment. Now talking about the essential features of bill of exchange. These features are more or less similar to that of the negotiable instrument and promissory note. However, some differences can be observed. First is, bill of exchange is a negotiable instrument. It's negotiable, that means it can be transferable from the one person to another. Second, it must be in writing, obviously, because every document which is a negotiable instrument has to be in writing. Third, it is an order. Now here lies the difference between bill of exchange and negotiable and promissory note, because promissory note is a promise that debtor will pay a payment of certain sum of the money after certain time period. But bill of exchange is an order by the creditor to the debtor to pay certain sum of the money on a certain date. Fourth, it's an unconditional order. So no conditions must be attached. If the payment of the money is subject to certain conditions or fulfillment of certain assumptions, then it will be called as a conditional bill, and hence it is not a valid bill. Next, it must be signed by the drawer. Okay, so first of all, because drawer is the creditor, while he makes the bill, he has to sign the bill as well. And after signing himself, he have to forward the bill to the drawee, that is the debtor, for its acceptance and signature. So next feature is it has to be accepted by the drawee. So once the bill is drawn by the drawer, that is by the creditor, he will send the bill to the debtor for acceptance. So on acceptance, the debtor will sign the bill and he will send it back to the drawer. Then on the maturity date, the drawer will present the bill again to the drawee for having the payment. Seventh feature is to pay certain sum of the money. Okay, so a certain definitive sum of the money which has to be mentioned in the bill of exchange, that is to be paid on a maturity date. Next is to pay money only. So obviously the consideration can be money only. The bill of exchange will certify to or will order to pay certain sum of the money only and nothing else. Next is that payable to order or bearer. So just like promissory note, the bill of exchange will be payable to the order or to the bearer. That means the bill of exchange will specify to make payment to a certain person or to the holder of that instrument. Next is parties of a bill of exchange. In promissory note, there were only two parties. The one who draws the bill, that was called as the maker or the debtor, and another one on whom the promissory note was given. That to whom the promissory note was given, that was the payee. But in case of bill of exchange, there are three parties: drawer, drawee, and the payee. Drawer means the person who draws the bill and is usually the creditor. Drawee means the person to whom the bill is drawn or on whom the bill is drawn. So when the drawee accepts the bill, he is called as the acceptor or the drawee. Third is the payee. So payee is the one who is entitled to receive the payment. So it can be drawer or any third person as well. For example, if the bill has been endorsed, then the party who will have the possession of that bill will going to receive the amount. That will be the payee. So basically, there are three parties: drawer who draws the bill, drawee on whom the bill is drawn, and payee, the one who is entitled to get the money. So it can be the drawer or any other person. If, for example, drawer has endorsed the bill to someone else, so the holder of the instrument of the bill will get the payment. Next is bill of exchange payable on demand and bill of exchange payable otherwise than on demand. This similar points as we have done in the promissory note. If it is payable on demand, so obviously whenever the bill is demanded, the amount of the bill is demanded by the drawee has to make the payment immediately. Then if it is payable otherwise than on demand, then the maturity date is calculated and the payment has to be made on the maturity date. Then maturity of a bill of exchange. The maturity of the bill of exchange is dependent on whether the bill was payable on demand or otherwise. If it is on demand, then no question arises of the maturity. But if it is payable otherwise than on demand, then whatever amount of months are written in the bill of exchange, that will be the maturity period. Lastly is days of grace. So similarly, as in the promissory note, 3 days of grace are added before arriving at the maturity date. So if the bill was drawn on 1st of January 2020 and the bill was for 3 months, so the due date for receiving the payment was March 31st, that is after 3 months, or we can say April 1. Then 3 days of grace will be given to the drawee for making the payment of the bill. So April 1 plus 3 days, that makes April 4. So April 4 will be the due date or the maturity date of making payment by the drawee to the drawer. So by now we are clear with the meaning and essential features of promissory note and bill of exchange. Now we'll talk about the difference between both of them. So the first difference between them is regards the parties. So there are two parties involved in the promissory note, that are maker and payee. Maker is the debtor and payee is the creditor. But in bill of exchange, there are three parties: drawer, drawee, and payee. Drawer is the person who draws the bill, that is the creditor. Drawee, on whom the bill is drawn, that is the debtor. And payee, the person who is entitled to receive the payment. That can be the drawer if the bill has not been endorsed, but if the bill has been endorsed to someone else, so some other third person will be the payee. Second, acceptance is not required, but in bill of exchange, acceptance is must. So promissory note, it must not be accepted by the payee. But in bill of exchange, first of all, it is drawn by the drawer and then it is presented to the drawee for acceptance. So the drawee has to sign it and then give it back to the drawer. Only then it will be considered as a valid bill of exchange. Third, unconditional promise to pay. So promissory note is an unconditional promise by the debtor to pay certain sum of the money to the creditor. But bill of exchange is an unconditional order which is given by the creditor to pay certain sum of the money by the debtor. Fourth, it must be signed by the maker. So promissory note has to be signed only by the maker, that is the debtor. But bill of exchange has to be signed both by the drawer as well as the drawee. So drawer, when he makes the bill, he has to sign the bill. Then he forwards the bill to the drawee for acceptance. Then when he accepts the bill, then he will sign the bill also. Okay, so that has to be signed by both the parties. Fifth, it is never presented for payment. So promissory note is never presented for payment. The payment will automatically be given by debtor to the creditor on the due date. If it is not given, then it will be dishonored, but the bill is never presented because it is in the possession of the debtor. Then bill of exchange has to be presented by the drawer for payment. So once the bill is accepted, the drawee gives the bill back to the drawer. Then on the maturity date, the drawer will take the bill and will present the bill before the drawee and demand payment. Sixth, promissory note is made by debtor. That is, this is a very essential difference between both of them, but bill of exchange is made by the creditor. Seventh, promissory note cannot be made payable to the bearer. So a promissory note is basically on the order of that instrument usually. That means whosoever name is written on the instrument, he will get the payment. Whereas bill of exchange can be drawn payable to the bearer. So bill of exchange can be both to the order as well as to the bearer of the instrument. Lastly, no notice of dishonor. So in case promissory note is dishonored, that is, the debtor fails to make payment of the said amount on the due date, then no notice of the dishonor has to be given to the parties involved. But in case of dishonor of the bill of exchange, proper notice has to be given to all the parties. And now the third and the last type of the negotiable instrument, that is check. So check is obviously the most common and the most popular form of negotiable instrument used in the business. And Section 6 of the Negotiable Instrument Act of 1881 deals with check. So as per the Act, a check is a bill of exchange drawn on a specified banker and not expressed to be payable otherwise than on demand, and it includes electronic image of a truncated check and a check in the electronic form. So check is a bill of exchange only, but the only difference between bill of exchange and check is that in case of bill of exchange, drawee can be any person. So that means a bill can be drawn on any person, but a check can only be drawn on a bank. So a check can be drawn only on the bank. The drawee will always be a bank because bank will be supposed to make the payment of the certain amount of the money that is mentioned in the check. So check, in case of check, the drawee will always be a bank. So check is a kind of bill of exchange in which drawee will be a bank and not expressed to be payable otherwise than on demand. So that means the bank will make the payment that is given on the check only when the check is presented to the bank for demand. So the payment will be made only when the check is presented for demand. So the mode of payment will be only on demand. So whenever that check is presented to the bank, whenever it is demanded, then the bank will make the payment. And it includes electronic image of a truncated check and a check in the electronic form. Now, truncation of check basically means that the conversion of the physical check into electronic form so that the clearing of that check takes place. So in order to have electronic clearing of that check, usually the physical checks are converted into the electronic forms. And the check in the electronic form means that when the check is not given on a physical paper, but when it is given electronically through digital signatures. So that is called as check in the electronic form. So that is just a kind of image of the check bearing digital signature of the drawer that is given to the bank or issued on the bank. Check can be signed using digital signature and asymmetric crypto system. So you might have seen various kind of checks in which the signatures are already there. So these are digital signatures. Okay. So check can be signed using digital signatures or crypto system as well. Debtor, instead of paying cash to his creditor, hands over the check and the creditor has to present this check in bank for getting his payment. So in case of check, who is the drawer? That is, who draws the check? The debtor, because he has to make the payment to some other person. So when you draw a check, when you write a check, that means you will make the payment. Your account will be debited. So debtor will draw the check. On whom? The check will be drawn on bank, because bank is supposed to make the payment of the same. So debtor, instead of paying cash to his creditor, he will hand over a check. Then the creditor has to present that check to the bank for getting his payment. Okay. So debtor will be the drawer of the bill, and the drawee will be the bank, and the payee, the one who is going to get the payment, will be the creditor. And the creditor will get the payment only when he will present the check with the bank. So you might have, all of you obviously might have seen an image of the check. So this is how a check looks like. So on the basis of the meaning, we can draw out essential features of a check, which are very much similar to the earlier negotiable instruments discussed. Check is obviously a negotiable instrument. It has to be in writing. It is an order. Okay, so it's not a promise, it's an order on the bank to pay certain sum of the money to the one who presents the check to the bank. Then it's an unconditional order. Obviously, the payment has to be made. No conditions can be attached to making the payment. Whenever a check has been presented with the bank has to make the payment without any condition. To pay certain sum of the money, and the amount of money is written on the check properly and clearly, both in words as well as in figures. To pay money only, check entitles to receive only the money and nothing else. Check may be payable to order or to the bearer. So check can be made to the order. That means it can be drawn in the favor of certain particular person, that a particular person will receive the money, or the amount will be credited to the account of only that particular person, or to the bearer. So in case of bearer, whosoever holds that check, if he present that check to the bank, he will get the payment. Parties, drawer and drawee. Then check is always payable on demand. So only when the drawee will take that check to the bank, only when the payee will take that check, or the creditor will take that check to the bank will make the payment. The check is always payable on presentation of that check with the bank. So it is payable on demand. Check is always drawn on a specified banker. So as I've told you, that it's a bill of exchange in which drawee is always the bank. So the one who is making the payment is always the bank. Maturity of check is as and when demanded, but the period of validity is 6 months. So maturity of check, since it is only on demand, so obviously in case of payable on demand, maturity is nothing. Usually it is as and when it is demanded and presented before the bank for getting the payment. But there is a period of the validity of the check, which is usually 6 months. But however, even checks of less than 6 months of validity can also be issued. So it depends upon the type of the account, or the account holder, or the conditions of the bank. Now, as I've told you, that check is a kind of bill of exchange. So how a check differs from the bill of exchange? First of all, the difference lies in the parties. Parties in case of bill of exchange are drawer and drawee, and payee also. But in case of check, the drawee will always be a bank. Second, in case of bill of exchange, acceptance by the drawee is must. But in case of check, no acceptance is required, because it is a drawee. It is the bank only who has issued the checkbook to their customer. So no acceptance is required in case of check. In case of bill of exchange, 3 days of grace are there. That is like 3-month time period is given. So while calculating the maturity date, after adding 3 months, 3 days of grace are also added for arriving at the maturity date. But in case of check, no days of grace are there. Whenever it has been presented, the payment has to be made by bank, although some hours or some days are required for clearing the transaction, for debiting and crediting the accounts, but otherwise there are no days of grace. Usually in these days, if check is presented, the payment gets credited within a day or in some hours also. Then a bill of exchange may or may not be payable on demand. So bill of exchange might have maturity period, or it may be payable on demand. But check is always payable on demand. There is no maturity period. Then bill of exchange cannot be crossed, but check can be crossed. So we'll discuss about crossing of checks detail later on. But basically, crossing of checks is a line, 2 lines which are marked on the check, which crosses the check basically, and a crossed check has to be credited only to the account of the customer, and no cash payments of the company will be made against a crossed check. So cross check is a kind of order check in which the payment will be credited only to the bank account of that order person and no cash will be given to that order person. Then bill of exchange, it can be presented, it has to be presented twice, because at first instance when the bill is drawn, it is given to the drawee, it is presented before the drawee for acceptance, then the drawee will give back the bill to the drawer, then later on the maturity date, again drawer will take the bill to the drawee for having the payment. So it is presented before the drawee twice, but check is only presented once before the bank for taking the payment. Next, bill of exchange is dishonored when it is not accepted by the drawee, and secondly when it is not paid on the due date by the drawee. But check is dishonored only when it is not paid by the bank on account of non-availability of funds in the drawer's account. Then bill of exchange has no validity because it has a maturity period, but depends upon the type of the bill of exchange. But check has a validity of usually 6 months, but checks of less than a period of 6 months can also be drawn depending on the type of the bank or the type of the customer. This was about the 3 types of negotiable instruments. In the next lecture, we'll talk about the crossing and the dishonor of checks. Any doubts and queries are welcomed.